There's this amazing picture of my coworker. It's him reading a Ninja Turtles book lying next to a Super Soaker. When the Super Soaker came out, it was a game changer. The slogan, "Wetter is better," was essentially a mantra for kids during summer break. So when I went to Atlanta to interview the guy responsible for all that, I had to show him the photo.
That's funny.
Lonnie Johnson invented the Super Soaker back in 1982. But that is not his only invention.
Well, I have over 100 patents.
Everything from the Nerf gun to a thermoelectric energy converter. He also worked on NASA's Galileo mission to Jupiter and alongside the US military.
The first Super Soaker actually I made in my shop in my basement in the evenings when I would come home from work. And at the time I was actually working on the stealth bomber program back when it was highly classified. And I actually couldn't even tell my wife what I was working on during the daytime. It was that top secret.
The original name for the Super Soaker was the Drencher.
We ran into a challenge regarding the name because another inventor claimed it. So we changed the name to Super Soaker just to avoid having to deal with that.
Super Soaker is definitely a way better name. When he started, Lonnie wasn't trying to create a toy for kids.
I was working on a new type of heat pump that would use water as a working fluid instead of Freon. And I was experimenting with some nozzles that I machined. And I shot a stream of water across the bathroom, and I thought, geez, maybe I should put this hard science stuff aside and work on something fun like a water gun. It still works.
And this brings me back to a previous point. Lonnie Johnson is a super genius scientist. This is his lab. And this is what he's working on now.
Yeah, right now I'm working on advanced battery technology. My goal is to develop a battery that will store about 3 times the energy of a lithium-ion battery.
In comparison, the Super Soaker might not seem as hard science, but it was still a really, really important invention.
Silly string, that bright, fun, party in an aerosol can, was actually invented by mistake. Believe it or not, it was supposed to help heal your broken bones. In 1972, Leonard A. Fish, an inventor, and Robert P. Cox, a chemist, were granted a U.S. patent for a foamable resinous composition. The two initially set out to create an aerosol can that could spray an instant cast on a broken leg or arm. And the invention worked. But when it came to packaging their discovery, they tested 500 different types of nozzles. Through their tests, Fish came upon one that produced a string that shot 30 feet across the room. Inspired, they decided to turn their instant cast into a toy. After altering the formula to produce a more colorful, less sticky string, the pair set out to market their product. Neither of them knew the first thing about selling toys, so they made an appointment with Wham-O in California. But the meeting didn't go exactly as planned.
Wait a minute, oh please.
Fish and Cox sprayed the string all over the office, including on the person they were meeting with. And unsurprisingly,
Get out!
They were asked to leave the premises. Just one day later, Fish received a telegram from Wham-O asking him to send 24 cans for a market test. Turns out that a trace of the silly string was left on a lampshade in the office, and was later spotted by Wham-O's owners, who themselves demanded a market test immediately. 2 weeks later, Wham-O signed a contract to license the product now known as Silly String.
It starts with a yes or no question. Does she have a crush on me? Will I pass the test? Will the Mets win the World Series? While they may not have always predicted the truth, Magic 8 Balls are actually inspired by a real-life clairvoyant.
Do you want to hear your fortune?
In the 1940s, Mary Carter was a popular medium, best known for her mysterious fortune-telling invention. It was called the Psycho Slate, essentially a chalkboard with a cover. When the clients would visit, Mary would ask a question to the spirits. The room would fill with the sound of scribbling, and then, just like poof, magic, Mary would reveal answers from another world mysteriously written on the chalkboard. Mary's son, Albert, was inspired by his mother and created his own truth-seeking device. But this time, you didn't need a psychic to tell you your fortune. He put a pair of worded dice inside a tube filled with molasses. Each end was clear so you could read the answers. Sound familiar? Albert hit the streets. He partnered with a couple local businessmen and opened a novelty company where they specialized in the miracle home fortune teller. After he died, Albert's partners took over and redesigned the project numerous times. They ended up with a crystal ball-like shape with a die in the middle, and a billiards company took note. They needed a promotional item, so they replaced the crystal ball with the iconic black 8-ball. The promotion was so successful that they rebranded the Magic 8-ball, this time marketing it as a fortune-telling toy. Today, kids are still using Magic 8-balls to ask for their fortunes. And for that, you can thank Mary the Clairvoyant.
Ah, yes.
Strong Museum in Rochester, New York is also known as the National Museum of Play. More than 500,000 objects are here. My name is Chris Bench. I'm Vice President for Collections at the museum and its Chief Curator. Our collections are divided by category, and here are some of the people who are responsible for them. Nicholas Ricketts is Curator of Board Games.
In our collection, we have around 10,000 board games, and it parallels essentially American history since the Revolution. When you think in terms of games, they all tend to represent the eras in which they were created. It's a different way of getting into the mindset of people who lived 100 years ago.
There's Michelle Parnett-Dwyer, Curator of Dolls.
In this collection, we have more than 15,000 dolls, and it spans from the 18th century to present day. Dolls are special because of the way that we connect with them. We project ourselves, our hobbies, our interests, our values towards others. When we look at the history of dolls and how we played with them, it shows that we connect to people from the past in ways that we might not have expected.
Martin Reinhardt, Head of Pinball and Arcade Game Collections.
We have over 250 arcade machines and over 100 pinball machines in the collection. Pinball is real. You can feel the way the game plays, you can feel the way the game moves as you're playing it. It's just in my nature to keep these machines going. They were made to last 5 years in a commercial environment, and the fact that we have games that are 30, 40, 50, 60 years old is amazing to me.
So I'm curator responsible for general toys, things like action figures and yo-yos. This collection has more than 70,000 objects. Toys always reflect what's going on in the world around them. When it's economic boom times, construction toys are big. When the US is at war, we see all sorts of military and war toys. The toy collection is a wonderful example of how times have changed and people have changed over the years. Play is really important. It's an integral part to who we are as human beings. Only by understanding how play has stayed the same and, more importantly, changed over the years can we understand how we've developed as people and how we've played over the centuries.
First crushes. We all remember them. And if you're a girl who grew up in the 90s, your first crush might have been one of the Dream Phone guys.
Oh boy, I think Gary, he has kind of a nice smile. Yeah, I'd say Matt's probably a jock.
This is Mike Gray, the unlikely inventor of the ultimate 90s tween dating game.
We needed a game targeted towards 9-year-old girls. It was a bunch of guys that did it, but that's okay.
I know who it is, but I'm not telling.
I said, let's do something that's kind of like Clue. So it's deduction. We're going to call a bunch of boys because we heard some boy likes us.
So it all started with the phone, right?
Yes. We kind of laughed and we kind of called this the pink slipper. You know, in its day, it was an elegant and beautiful thing.
I know where he hangs out.
So how did they pick the boys of your teenage dreams?
We went to a photo house. We didn't know like who these boys were or anything. We just picked ones that we liked.
But that's not the only 90s girls game Mike made. He also made the super successful Mall Madness. But he's pretty real about his influence as a guy.
Well, if I'm going to make a game about shopping, what I know about shopping, you just go get what you need and get back to the car. Later, it was pointed out to me that that's kind of not the way ladies shop. So it was kind of, in a funny way, a guy's game, you know, but it was for girls. I say games are togetherness in a box. Play a game with people, you learn a lot about them. And it shouldn't be about winning and losing, it should be about being together.
You're right.
When the young kids on the street found out that I was working on Star Wars, I was like a god to them. Those kids are now parents. They've seen the movies throughout the years. There's always in the back of their mind like, oh wow, I remember playing with the Falcon. I remember playing with the X-Wing and the TIE Fighter. To understand that you have a small part of that kind of bigger world is pretty cool. My name is Mark Boudreau, and I've been fortunate enough to work on Star Wars toys since 1977. The amazing thing about Star Wars, I don't think it's really ever gone away. It's always been there. Vehicles has been sort of what I really am the most passionate about. TIE Fighters, X-Wings, Rey's speeder. I've always built models, built planes, cars. So they said, hey Mark, why don't you go ahead and start working on the Millennium Falcon? And I said, like, sure, why not? The Millennium Falcon is more than just a machine. It really is a character that helps save the day. It's more than just a hunk of junk. We wanted to be able to provide an experience that could extend from the film. So when you went to go see the movie, you come right back and you're playing with Luke, you're playing with Han, you're playing with Chewie, and you're able to relive everything that you saw in the film. Long after I've gone to the Force, wherever that might be, this product will still be there. Grandkids from now will hopefully still be enjoying Star Wars. And we certainly want to try to do our small part into making sure that that continues.